Imagine you could perfectly clone any successful business, like overnight.
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Okay.
seriously, just think about the mechanics of that for a second. You walk past this, I don't know, booming coffee shop or a massively profitable tech company, and you just press a button.
Right.
Suddenly, you have an exact replica right across the street, running the exact same operations, but you charge your customers a fraction of a cent less. What would stop everyone in the world from doing that over and over until nobody makes any money at all?
Well, in the physical world or even traditional software, there are massive built-in moats. You have copyrights, trade secrets, complex physical infrastructure.
Employee non-competes, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Patents.
Yeah,
A competitor can't just copy your source code and steal your customers in a random afternoon.
right. But if you were exploring the world of decentralized finance or DeFi, that overnight cloning isn't just a thought experiment. It is a daily existential threat.
Oh, absolutely.
The code powering these billions of dollars in financial services is, well, it's almost entirely open source. Anyone can literally copy and paste a platform's code in a matter of hours. So whether you are diving into crypto out of sheer curiosity or you are just trying to make sense of the absolute overwhelming noise in this space, you have probably wondered, how does anything actually survive?
It's sort of the ultimate test of economic gravity, really.
Yeah.
We're exploring a fundamental lesson in business survival today, and we're looking at it through the lens of a highly influential essay by Spencer Applebaum and Kyle Samani from Multicoin Capital. It's titled, "DeFi Protocols Don't Capture Value, DeFi DAOs Manage Risk."
So our mission for this deep dive is to answer the ultimate question, right?
Mm.
Why do some digital tokens hold massive billions of dollars in value while others are just destined to be copied, undercut, and totally forgotten?
And you really should care about this because it provides a crucial mental model. It gives you a framework for spotting which platforms across, well, any digital economy really, are genuinely revolutionary and which are just temporarily extracting unnecessary fees before they inevitably get cloned out of existence.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how these platforms survive today, we actually have to look at what people used to believe kept them safe and why that old framework completely broke down.
Right. To see where things are going, we need to look at an older concept known in the industry as unforkable state.
Unforkable state. It sounds like a bad political thriller.
Yeah, a little bit. But for a long time, the prevailing theory was that a token only captures value if it manages something that a copycat can't easily replicate. Think of state as the accumulated data and, crucially, the capital a protocol holds.
Okay, what does that actually mean in practice, though? Let's use some real examples.
Sure. The classic comparison here is Uniswap versus 0x. Uniswap is an automated market maker, a decentralized exchange run entirely by smart contracts, which are just, self-executing pieces of code on the blockchain.
Right.
If you, the listener, decided to fork or copy Uniswap tomorrow, and you launched your own version called, let's say, Multiswap, you would have the exact same functional code.
But I wouldn't have the billions of dollars of actual capital sitting inside it. My multi-swap would just be an empty shell.
Exactly. That locked capital is the unforkable state. When a trader goes to Uniswap to swap $1 million worth of tokens, they experience very low slippage.
And slippage is simply the difference between the price you expect to get and the price you actually get.
Right. Right. If you try to execute a massive trade on a tiny exchange, you eat up all the available tokens and crash the price against yourself. Because Uniswap has billions in liquidity, slippage is practically zero. Your brand new multi-swap has zero liquidity, so a trader using your platform would get terrible prices. The theory was that this massive pool of locked capital protected Uniswap from being copied.
Okay, so the capital acts as a giant moat. But the essay contrasts that with 0x, which operates totally differently, right?
Yeah, 0x is more of a routing system. The 0x smart contract doesn't store much state at all. It just processes trades and connects buyers and sellers across different networks. So if you copy the 0x code to make a clone, your copy is almost immediately as good as the original. It performs the exact same routing job on day one, because it doesn't rely on a massive pool of locked capital to function.
So the old thinking was pretty straightforward then. Uniswap is safe because of its locked capital, and 0x is vulnerable because it's just a processor.
That was the idea, yeah.
But the essay points out that this whole framework is actually flawed now. The ecosystem adapts way too fast. I mean, we've seen things like vampire attacks.
Oh, vampire attacks. They completely rewrite the rules of defensibility.
Yep.
In a traditional business, you have to spend millions on marketing to acquire customers. In DeFi, a clone can just offer a new token that essentially prints free money to subsidize the migration of users.
Wait, let me make sure I understand the mechanics of
Yeah.
that. If I clone Uniswap, I don't just put up a website and hope people show up. I say to the market, hey, if you move your millions of dollars of liquidity from Uniswap over to my new multi-swap, I will reward you with thousands of my new multi-I tokens every single day.
That is exactly what happens. The financial incentives are so overwhelmingly strong that the unforkable state simply walks out the front door and moves to the clone.
Wow.
This realization forced the authors to rethink their entire thesis. Defensibility against a clone doesn't explain why a protocol's token should have any fundamental value, or why it has the right to extract fees from its users.
But wait, I have to push back here.
Sure.
If it is that easy to copy-paste the code, and a vampire attack can just steal the users by printing a shiny new incentive token, why doesn't every single protocol just go to zero instantly?
That's the big question.
Is it just brand loyalty keeping them alive? Because relying on brand loyalty in a market this ruthless feels incredibly flimsy.
Oh, brand loyalty in decentralized finance is totally an illusion. Addressing that exact vulnerability brings us to the core thesis of this entire essay. The true dividing line, the great divide between protocols that survive and thrive and those that eventually die, is risk management.
Risk management. Okay, we're getting to the meat of it now.
Yeah. The essay categorizes all DeFi protocols into two buckets. Bucket 1 holds protocols that do not manage risk. Bucket 2 holds protocols that do.
Okay.
The tokens in that first bucket are constantly in danger of being forked into oblivion.
Let's use Uniswap again then, because it's massive. Everyone knows it. And according to the essay, it falls directly into that dangerous first bucket, right? The UNI token doesn't actually manage any systemic risk.
Correct. Uniswap stores a massive amount of state, but the UNI token itself doesn't backstop anything. UNI token holders get to vote on some governance parameters, like which trading curves to support or how to spend their community treasury.
Yeah.
There is even a fee switch they can turn on to take a cut of the platform's trading volume.
But if we look at the mechanics of that fee switch, it is essentially just a tax. If UNI holders turn it on, they're just skimming money off the top from the liquidity providers, the LPs who actually put their own money into the pools to facilitate the trades, and from the takers, the people actually making the swaps.
Exactly. And the authors make a very bold claim here. They say that on a per-transaction basis, the mere existence of the UNI token is actually value destructive to the users of the protocol.
Wow.
The token doesn't make the system safer or more efficient for the buyers and sellers. It just acts as friction. Furthermore, the UNI treasury, which holds a massive amount of tokens, essentially acts as inflation, slowly diluting the value for all the other token holders.
Man, that is a harsh assessment for one of the most famous tokens in the world. But it makes sense. I mean, they aren't providing a service. They're just sitting in the middle. So contrast that with a token in the second bucket. What does a token that actually manages risk look like?
Maker and its token, MKR, is the perfect example here. Maker is a lending protocol that generates a stablecoin pegged to the US dollar. Users lock up volatile assets, like Ethereum, as collateral, and borrow stablecoins against it.
Okay, pretty standard so far.
But the critical difference is that MKR token holders are the final backstop against insolvency.
Meaning, if the system takes on bad debt, the MKR holders pay the price.
Yes. If the collateral backing the loans crashes in value faster than the system's smart contracts can liquidate it, the protocol is left with a hole in its balance sheet. To fix that hole, the Maker protocol automatically mints brand new MKR tokens and auctions them off to cover the deficit.
Wait. So if the system goes under, the platform literally prints more of my tokens and sells them. I am paying for their mistake by getting diluted.
Yeah. That is the burden of active governance. You absorb the blow, and this isn't just theoretical either. During the Black Thursday market crash in March 2020, Ethereum's price collapsed by roughly 50% in a single day.
Oh, I remember that. Brutal.
The Maker system accumulated millions of dollars in bad debt because network congestion prevented liquidators from selling off the collateral in time. So MKR holders took a massive hit to keep the system solvent. Because they take on that catastrophic risk, it completely justifies them extracting fees from the system during the good times. They are earning a premium for providing insurance.
Ah, okay. So what does this all mean for you listening? Let me try an analogy here to ground this. It's like the difference between a toll booth operator and an insurance provider.
Okay, I like that.
The toll booth operator, that's Uniswap in this scenario, just puts a gate on a road that is already built, takes your money, and lets you drive through. If you crash your car on that road a mile later, The toll operator doesn't care. They already got their fee.
Right. But the insurance provider like Maker takes your money, but they promise that if you crash on that road, they will literally buy you a new car. Users don't mind paying the insurance premium because the provider is actively absorbing their risk. Users resent the toll booth because it's just pure friction.
That distinction naturally brings up decentralized derivatives exchanges, right?
Yeah.
Places where people trade with high leverage, like Perpetual Protocol or DDX.
Definitely. Leverage inherently magnifies danger. If you put up $10 and borrow $90 to buy $100 of Bitcoin, you are highly leveraged.
Right.
If Bitcoin drops by just 10%, your initial $10 is entirely wiped out. You get liquidated. If the market moves violently and the system cannot liquidate your position fast enough, the exchange is left holding the bag. In traditional centralized crypto exchanges, if their insurance fund runs dry, they resort to what's called auto-deleveraging, or clawbacks.
A clawback. So if I make a brilliant trade and win, but the exchange is in the red because of someone else's bad trade, they literally take my winnings to pay for the guy who lost.
Yep.
That is awful.
Winning traders absolutely despise it. Decentralized derivatives platforms solve this by using their native governance tokens to capitalize a robust insurance fund. Token holders stake their tokens, and if the system goes bust, those staked tokens are slashed to make the winning traders whole.
Oh, I see. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, any protocol offering leverage or handling volatile collateral has to actively manage that danger. It's not just a passive backstop. The token holders have to vote to govern the parameters of that risk.
Exactly. Governance tokens are fundamentally necessary to manage leverage. If there is no leverage and no risk of insolvency like with a simple spot exchange such as Uniswap, there really isn't much to govern that justifies extracting value from the users.
Which brings us to the threat of the rug pull, right? And how these risk-managing platforms actually defend themselves against the copycats. If I'm an insurance provider, I have to prove I actually have the money to buy you that new car.
Right. Let's examine borrow and lend protocols like Compound or AAVE. These platforms allow you to deposit an asset to earn interest or use it as collateral to borrow something else. If the platform allowed absolutely any token to be used as collateral, malicious actors would destroy the system overnight.
Oh, I could have a field day with that. I could literally go create a completely worthless token right now, call it, I don't know, HostCoin, and artificially pump the price on a tiny exchange so it looks like it's worth $100.
Right.
Then I deposit my worthless host coins into AAVE and use them as collateral to borrow millions of dollars of real Ethereum. Then I just walk away. I leave the platform holding my garbage host coins and I keep the real money.
That is the mechanical definition of a rug pull.
Yeah.
The legitimate lenders on the platform are left with massive losses. This is why governance is so critical. The token holders vote on which assets are safe enough to be used as collateral, what the margin requirements are, and how much can be borrowed.
And because DAOs operate on a one-token, one-vote system, if they vote poorly and accept a bad asset, they're the ones who backstop the loss. Their own token gets diluted.
Exactly.
So they have intense financial skin in the game to be careful. But let's go back to our overnight cloning scenario. The essay walks through a fascinating hostile takeover experiment called Suave. Yeah, this is a great thought experiment. Imagine a team of highly capitalized developers decides to fork AAVE. They copy all the open source code, launch a new protocol called Suave with 2 A's, and introduce a new SUIV token. They even managed to seed it with $10 billion in capital on day one. They're an extremely serious threat.
So if both AAVE and the new copycat Suave are actively managing risk, why does the original AAVE still win? Why don't the lenders just migrate to the shiny new platform?
It comes down to returns to scale and diffuse token distribution. The original AAVE token has a significantly higher market capitalization.
Yeah.
If the system takes a $100 million hit from a bad liquidation, a token with a $5 billion market cap can absorb that dilution much better than a new token with a $500 million market cap.
That makes sense. Let's break down the diffuse token distribution part, though, because the mechanics there are fascinating.
Yeah.
AAVE has been around for years. It has survived multiple market crashes, upgrades, and panics. Its tokens are spread out among thousands of different wallets.
And that wide distribution is a critical security feature. It provides a strong social guarantee. Returning to your HostCoin scam, if a cartel of bad actors wants to force the protocol to accept HostCoin, they have to buy up a majority of the voting tokens.
Right.
In a widely distributed system with a high market cap, buying enough tokens to rig the vote is prohibitively expensive.
It's essentially the difference between a massive democracy and a tiny dictatorship. In the massive democracy, it is incredibly difficult and expensive to bribe enough voters to pass a malicious law.
Exactly.
But the new Suave token, even with billions in locked capital, well, it likely has its tokens heavily concentrated in the hands of its founders and early venture capitalists. It operates like a dictatorship. It's much easier for those few whales to collude, vote to approve a scam token, and rug pull the entire system.
This dynamic creates the safety flywheel. The largest platform is fundamentally the safest backstop. Because it is the safest, it naturally attracts more users and lenders. Those users bring more capital, which pushes the token price higher, which increases the market cap, which creates an even thicker safety backstop, attracting even more users.
But here's where it gets really interesting, though. Question for you, representing the skeptical listener here.
Bring it on.
If this Suave copycat has deep pockets on day one, couldn't the founders just artificially buy up their own token to pump the market cap and fake that platform safety? Couldn't they just buy their way into the flywheel?
They can manipulate the price, sure, but they cannot fake the diffuse distribution of the token, and they cannot fake the battle-tested history of the governance process. Trust in a decentralized system is built through surviving crises, not just flashing a large market cap.
Ah, I see.
If lenders look at the blockchain and see that a few wallets control 80% of the UAVE tokens, they won't trust the platform. They know those whales could alter the collateral parameters at any moment. Time, survival, and decentralization are unfakeable metrics.
Which really highlights the vulnerability of the market for everyone else. If risk-managing tokens are protected by this unfakeable safety flywheel, what is the ultimate fate of the tokens that don't manage risk? The ones just playing toll booth?
Well, that brings us to the final major argument of the essay. It's perfectly summarized by a famous quote from Jeff Bezos: "Your margin is my opportunity."
It's a ruthless philosophy, but it is the reality of business. The essay acknowledges that right now, DeFi users are relatively fee insensitive. I mean, people will pay a high platform fee because they're caught up in a bull market, or they just want immediate access to a hot new asset.
But the authors argue that this behavior will not persist. The larger the unnecessary fee extraction, the larger the motivation for third parties to undercut you. Let's look at the tempura fork thought experiment to see how this plays out mechanically.
Continue with the food theme, I love it. Let's say someone forks SushiSwap, another massive decentralized exchange. They copy it, call it tempura, but they tweak one tiny variable. On SushiSwap, the liquidity providers, the people putting up the capital, earn 25 basis points per trade. For you listening, a basis point is 0.01%, so 0.25%. Tempura forks the code and offers LPs 30 basis points, 0.30%.
Right. And if you are an LP, meaning you are simply parking your capital in a smart contract to earn the highest possible yield, you have a very clear choice.
But SushiSwap has the brand. It has the history. Most people would think, you know, I would rather make slightly less money getting a smaller slice of a massive established pie on SushiSwap than a slightly larger slice of a non-existent pie on a brand new clone like Tempura.
In a traditional business setting, that logic absolutely holds up. But in DeFi, the architecture dictates that if the LPs, the capital move to Tempura for the better rate, the taker flow, the people actually making the trades, will automatically follow them.
Because of the aggregators.
Yeah. Aggregators change everything. Most sophisticated traders and increasingly regular retail users do not navigate directly to the Uniswap or SushiSwap website anymore.
Right.
They use a decentralized exchange aggregator like 1inch or a hyper-localized front end built directly into their crypto wallet. When a user wants to trade Ethereum for another token, they hit swap, and the aggregator's algorithm scans every single exchange across the entire ecosystem in milliseconds. It routes the trade to wherever the liquidity is deepest to ensure the absolute lowest slippage.
Wait, are people really that ruthlessly efficient? Do sophisticated market participants actually care about a 5 basis point difference enough to abandon an established platform? In the real world, I mean, I still go to the expensive grocery store down the street just because it's convenient, even though I know the one across town is cheaper.
Sure, but you tolerate the expensive grocery store because walking across town requires physical friction. It takes time and effort. In DeFi, moving your capital to a more efficient platform takes 2 clicks, and the aggregators do the price hunting for you instantly. Friction is rapidly approaching zero. And when friction approaches zero, ruthless efficiency isn't just possible, it is inevitable. And for a whale trading $10 million, 5 basis points is $5,000. They absolutely care.
Because the aggregator instantly routes the trade to Tempura's deeper liquidity pools, the brand name of the underlying protocol becomes totally irrelevant.
Exactly. The underlying primitives, the protocols themselves, do not own the customer relationship anymore. The aggregators and the front ends own the customer. As Bezos warned, those dominant aggregators will eventually route around any token that is purely extracting fees without providing a risk management service.
Wow. Okay, bringing this all together, the ultimate conclusion of this multi-coin capital deep dive is that the only sustainable way to justify a token capturing value, the only way it survives the infinite copy-paste machine, is if there is actual risk in the system that the token holders are actively managing and backstopping.
If you extract fees without backstopping risk, you are a toll booth, and the aggregators will eventually build a free bypass road right around you. The authors issue a stark call to action for the massive protocols out there right now, specifically calling out UNI, SUSI, and YFI. They argue these giants need to urgently build out new features that introduce systemic risk for their tokens to manage.
Because as the aggregate risk in the broader ecosystem grows, the protocols that manage that risk will become dominant, and the purely fee-extracting ones will just be forked into obsolescence. They have to evolve from simple toll booths into robust insurance companies before it is too late.
Precisely. The market will optimize out any inefficiency. Managing and pricing risk is the only real value add that a decentralized network of token holders can uniquely provide at scale.
Which leaves us with a pretty wild final thought to mull over. We talk so much about the revolution of decentralized finance, the disruption of the old banking order, and building a completely alternative financial universe. But if the survival of a decentralized protocol ultimately boils down to how well it manages, prices, and backstops risk, aren't these radically new DeFi DAOs destined to eventually look and act exactly like traditional insurance conglomerates and risk assessment actuaries?
It's funny you say that because the technology running the system is revolutionary, but the fundamental laws of economics remain completely unchanged.
They are just running on a global blockchain instead of inside a corporate skyscraper. It really makes you wonder what that means for the dream of a totally alternative system. Are we escaping traditional finance, or are we just rebuilding the exact same incentive structures with open source code? Just something for you to think about next time you see a new token promising to change the world. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep questioning the mechanics of the systems around you, and we'll catch you next time.